everybody. Welcome back to Author Eke. Today we have Kathleen Manett, and she has written a great book, and she is way out on Long Island somewhere. Way out there.
Absolutely.
So welcome to Author Eke, and
Thank
please
you.
introduce yourself to the crowd here.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Kathleen Manett. I'm the author of the Runaway Home series. There are currently 2 books out in the series, and I'm working on writing the 3rd and last installment right now.
Excellent. So is there going to be a 4th?
There will not be a 4th in this series, but that doesn't mean that I'm done writing. I have another series already planned.
That's like a typical author.
Yes.
I'm not done writing. It's hard to stop.
Yep. No, you can't.
I was like, when I finished my last book, I said, I don't think I could write anymore. I think it just took it out of me to write it, emotionally. I'm like, I started another one yesterday.
Yeah, of course. I was going to say, you feel that way for a couple of days, and then you start getting ideas, and you just move on to the next work in progress. So
I took about 3 months of not writing, just to, marketing and stuff.
Right.
So tell us about the first in the series.
Sure.
Then the second, and kind of tease us on the third.
Absolutely. So all 3 of the books follow the same characters in chronological order. Each one is about 6 months to a year apart. The series itself is about 3 people, Peter, Haley, and Danny. They all are in the foster care system. Haley and Peter age out when they turn 21, and Peter decides that he wants to adopt Danny, who is another boy who is in his foster home. The series chronicles kind of the trials and tribulations they face becoming a found family, brand new, on their own, learning the difficulties of being out on your own. And Peter happens to have a dark secret that he keeps from the others, which is what is slowly revealed throughout the 3-book series.
So you got to read the third to figure out what the heck is going on.
Right. So the first book, you get a clue. The second book, you start to understand, and by the 3rd book, you will figure out completely what's going on with Peter and why he is the way that he is.
Now, do the books take place in the same location, the same town?
Yeah, so they live actually in Metford, Long Island, which is, I grew up in Patchogue, the neighboring town, same school district.
I've been to Hauppauge.
Oh, really? That's right by me. Yeah, no, that's...
I did, when I worked at EDS, I went out there and did some training.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
No, really cool. Yeah, no, that's literally like a neighboring town, so that's very close.
Yeah.
So I've noticed that a lot of my readers are from Suffolk County, and they seem to enjoy the references to like certain places that I mentioned in the book. So that's always, people always get very excited. Like, I know where that Applebee's is. Like,
that's cool though.
So it's really based off of, when it comes to the setting and the environment, it's based off of where I lived and grew up. So I definitely know that I have that correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when people say, why did you put us in your book? The town looks like, That's cool though. So that's the first one. So how did they meet? Did they all meet in an orphanage or at homes?
Danny is actually adopted. He's been adopted since he was a little boy by a woman named Melissa. She's also a foster mother, and she fosters not just Haley and Peter, but many other children throughout her time. But at the end, she has terminal illness, and that's why Peter decides to adopt Danny from her.
Okay.
So all 3 of them grew up in the same foster home.
Okay. So how did you get the inspiration around writing that? Because it could probably be pretty personal.
Right. So it's very fictional. No one in this book is a real character or even based off of anyone that I've ever known. But I did want to write a book that was entertaining and engrossing, but also something that taught about social issues on Long Island. My career, I'm on lunch break right now, but my career is that I'm a caseworker for the Department of Social Services. So I kind of wanted to give some insight on some issues that I've seen, not only through living on Long Island, but working on Long Island. You'll come across homelessness in my books. You'll come across drug addiction, and those are some really big issues that we're seeing here: unaffordable housing and an opioid crisis. So I wanted to put those very important issues that are close to my heart into my book, but also have something that was entertaining and a good read. So this fictional story came from a want to be able to express those ideas.
Okay. Yeah, my niece has a master's in, I guess, social, uh, whatever I mean,
Social
what
work.
you do. Yeah, yeah. And then they live in around Shreveport, and she works for some nonprofits and everything. So then you get to your first book, and then when you wrote the first book, did you know what you were going to put in the second book? Could you move over a little bit so we can see in the whole picture?
Absolutely. I don't want to give too much of the plot away, but the first book is really Haley, Danny, and Peter trying to get along as a found family, and all the struggles that they face as these three people who are, living on their own. Danny's a young boy. Danny's 13 at this time, and Peter and Haley are 21. At the end of book one, something very catastrophic happens, and you'll see that two of them are now still living together while one is somewhere else completely, and they continue to face more struggles. A little more of Peter's background is revealed. A lot of his I guess actions and the way that he processes the world are directly related to a trauma that he experienced when he was younger, and that a little bit more of that story, that backstory, is revealed in book two. Book three, you'll get the complete.
Could you move over a little bit so we can see your full face?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Is that better?
Excellent. Yeah, perfect. You're like an anonymous person, like, who is she really?
My camera shows my face. I'll just stay here though.
Excellent, perfect. Now go ahead, book three.
Book three, like I said, will reveal the complete secret that Peter's been hiding from Haley and Danny. I always have trigger warnings available on my website because it is not a happy story, and I want people to be totally emotionally prepared before they dive into it. I see book three being one of the more serious books of the series, with what I have planned to write.
Right. But you hit on something key earlier when you wrote it. You said you want it to be entertaining.
Yes.
And I think a lot of authors, they don't necessarily write to be entertained. They write to get a story out or something. But a book has to be entertaining,
or else you're not getting
for someone to be able to read it, especially if you're writing a series, because it has to be entertaining the first. And then when you do write a series, part of what you have to be careful of an author is how much of the character do you write again? I mean, how the description of them, all the backstory of the characters. That's how much you put in there. So someone says, "Well, I came out of the first book," or I need, or something like that.
That's actually a funny story because I started writing this book actually when I was in college, because I've always had a passion about foster care and homelessness, and I started writing it then. And my creative writing professor at the time told me, this has merit and you should continue to write this. But I put it down for years, and then I all of a sudden had more free time on the weekends because something called COVID happened, and I decided to pick the book back up, which was like, when did I graduate? 2015, and I was in his class in 2011. So this is about 9 years later that I'm like, now I have this career in this field. I have more knowledge of it. Let me pick this story back up. So I picked it back up, and I wrote the first book, and I reconnected with this professor, and he's now.
Oh wow!
Yep, he's my editor, William J. McGee.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yep, he's phenomenal. He's also an author himself. But we went back and forth on book two about how much I had to rehash in book two in order to, if someone hadn't read book one in a while, or if someone, which I never suggest, please don't start with book two, but if you do start with book two, you can, I'm hoping, can kind of piece together what happened in book one.
Right. Yeah, that's always the conundrum, right? How much do you want to put in there without making it repetitive?
Right. And you have this very specific way that you don't make it seem like, oh, this is just exposition. You have to be able to work it in a natural way, to have the characters talk about, the catastrophe that happened in book one, have them speak about it in a way that they actually would. Not be like, do you remember when this happened? It has to sound flowing in that.
Exactly. So how do your coworkers that have read the book, I mean, are they like receptive or?
My coworkers are amazing. I have to tell you, just the Department of Social Services in Suffolk County completely has my dedication and my heart. The people I work with are so dedicated and so passionate to their work, and they have been so supportive of me. I have events all over Long Island, and they'll show up and come support me. They'll
that's nice.
they are absolutely phenomenal people, and I've never once been afraid to be like, "Hey, do you think you can read this for me and just tell like, do you think this makes sense? Is this how it might actually?" And although some things that I write, maybe aren't not everything's going to be 100% the process of what would actually happen, but I'm hoping to
Right.
keep it as real as possible.
Oh, excellent, excellent. I mean, it's good to get moral support uh, from coworkers and even the writing community as a whole is very supportive.
Or X, I'm sorry, X.
Yeah,
The writing community. That's how I met you. The writing community on
yeah, I
X.
know. Yeah, yeah, it's very supportive. Even writing the same genre or everything's very supportive. As I say, I'm not taking any readers from you. You're not taking any readers from
No.
me because people read multiple books.
Right. Absolutely.
And people read different books, right?
Yep.
People will read, some thriller, suspense. They may want to read something that's more easygoing or more something they want to be,
Right.
they want to learn.
Mhm.
Now I found that I have learned more by writing because you have to read to write.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's some of the things you find, the nuances, and you read historical things or even somebody else's writings, or it's amazing what you can do. Then your brain can go, wow, that's kind of a good story. Let me figure that out.
No, you're 100% right. You have to be a reader before you can be a writer, and that's why also when I'm marketing, I want writers to take a look at my work because they're readers too.
Right.
So I have probably around 11,000 followers on Twitter, and most of them are writers.
Right.
Just because there's a huge community there, and it's
Right.
just I'm so appreciative of all the support that I've received. It's absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, it's I didn't when I first wrote my first book, I was like, well, I can't let anybody see this because they'll take the idea or whatever. But that's just not the
Yeah.
case whatsoever. Even it took me to my third book to figure out I need to send this out to people before it's published so they can read it, so I get some feedback and then start
Absolutely.
getting some of the reviews and things.
That's so important. I mean, I had an alpha team, beta team, and then I also had ARC readers for the books. So
Right.
I at least 10 to 15 people usually have read the book before it's sent off to my publisher.
I had because I was writing fictional historical fiction, then I had a professor at SMU I reached out to go, oh yeah, I'd love to, I'll look at it from a historical perspective and everything. And, some things he can make, no, this, this is how, this is what it really was, or this is how it is. So his knowledge was just very, very, I couldn't, do it without him.
Right.
So he did, then that helped out a lot. Then, the ACR readers, then the folks that, hey, let me tell you about an idea that I have, does it make sense to be able to, make it to fruition.
Right.
So we talked earlier, do you take breaks between books?
I do. So my second book was published in April. I just started writing the third book, but that's because I've been doing almost every weekend a different book signing or book event. Marketing, as you I'm sure know, marketing takes a lot of time.
Oh my God.
And especially when you're working a full-time job on top of doing this, because this is a passion for me, it's a lot. So I do take a break, but I have been so far, every April I've released a book. So I had the April of 2023 and April of 2024. So I'm hoping for April of 2025. The third and last.
That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I started writing another book yesterday.
Okay.
I'm about 1,000 words into it. But so now it's more, because I just took a break because I just want marketing, and then I was just mentally exhausted and really wanted to do it right.
Right.
From that perspective. So I was like, oh, am I even going to write another book? Am I going to have an idea? And I have to, I can't force an idea. Something just says, oh, let me write about it.
Right.
Because I just started writing 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago.
Oh, yeah. So you're new. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I've been a writer all along, though. You just didn't realize it.
I mean, I love to read. I used to travel every week, and I'd read a book every week on the airplane. But no, I was never even envisioned it. It would have been like if I would. Oh yeah. So top 10 things, Travis, you think you're going to do in your life?
Right.
That wouldn't have been one of them. Now I got to move something off that list. I'm like, what am I going to move off that list? So I don't know. So how do you market? Do you do a lot of? I mean, I love to get authors. Everybody has a different. Well, I was told one time, and I do it. Spend an hour a day marketing,
And it's
at
truly the
least.
hardest part of writing. Like when you first start writing, you're like, I'm a writer. I'm going to write. That's what my job is. No, your job is to wear many, many hats. And marketing,
Yes.
for me, from the start, had been the most difficult. But luckily, because of my personality, I'm very outgoing. You have no sort of fear of self promotion. So I'm
Right.
going into every Barnes and Noble, getting emails, emailing every Barnes and Noble in Suffolk County, going to every bookstore, like independent local bookstore, and talking to them about my book. So just by going in there or emailing and calling, I've been able to set a bunch of events for myself. I also am part of a local writing group called the Long Island Authors, and
Mm-hmm.
they set up these beautiful events at restaurants, like I think quarterly they are. And every member gets a booth, and we set up our table, and the general public comes in and they get free appetizers, and they get to take a look at our books and purchase our
Yeah.
books. I also contact all the libraries, about 4 or 5 libraries